I want to give you an update on Lemonade. What's my thinking around the stock right now? What am I doing with the stock right now? And share one data point around how management is thinking about the stock, Lemonade stock, right now. So let's dive into it. First off, there's one data point that tells us Lemonade is really, I think, focusing on the most important issues at hand. About a month ago on Twitter, Damian wrote this Twitter thread on Lemonade, and he pointed out, or one idea he suggests, is that there's hundreds of thousands of people on the car waiting list. There must be a way to let them assist in building out the product to get that flywheel spinning faster. Any thoughts on this thread? And I actually had some discussions with this with some Lemonade management through text correspondence, and I said the idea is to sort of gamify the car experience for people who are Lemonade fans but for whom the product isn't available in their area yet. They could run the car app on their phones in the background, which would allow them to see their driving scores or scorecards showing how safe or unsafe they are. Would be a chance to collect more data on more drivers for free, get the most excited Lemonade fans even more excited for Lemonade's products to come to their market, and ability to directly target the safest drivers in a new state on day one based on the individual driving data you already have on them. And it was really great. I had this response from someone at the Lemonade team. They said, it's a good idea. It's just a matter of prioritization. We have a lot on our plate right now with Metro Miles integration, our focus on loss ratio and improving the expense ratio. Great to see how focused our team is on those important things on our path to profitability. Well, this is a good idea, and I think Damian's idea could be a valuable idea in the future. I was really encouraged to actually see this kind of response from Lemonade and basically said, well, that's great, but we do have a lot of more important fish to fry, more important things that we're focused on right now. Getting the Metro Mile integration efficiently integrated, but also focusing on the loss ratio, improving expense ratio, cutting down expenses as much as they can. We've been harping on management for that quite a bit inside of the sort of Lemonade community. So in my mind, really great response, one small data point. Now I want to move on to how I am thinking about Lemonade and read you one quote that Nitin posted in the Lemonade community. He wrote, but this important fact is from Ben Graham's Intelligent Investor, that book. He said, the true investor scarcely ever is forced to sell his shares, and at other times he is free to disregard the current price quotation. He need pay attention to it and act upon it to the extent that it suits his book and no more. Thus, the investor who permits himself to be stampeded or unduly worried by unjustified market declines in his holdings is perversely transforming his basic advantage into a basic disadvantage. That man would be better off if his stock had no market quotation at all, for he would then be spared the mental anguish caused him by other persons' mistakes of judgment. So this sums up a lot of how I feel about the stock market in general and sort of the day-to-day worries that people have about share price and trying to justify the day-to-day movements of share price. In my mind, it's much better to look deeply at the company itself and think about that from a long-term perspective. At least that's my philosophy, and that's what makes sense to me, that I'm not trying to trade the action of a day-to-day or week-to-week or cycle sort of movement of a stock price, but actually just buy great companies, and if I can buy more shares of those companies for even less, that's even better. So in my mind, I'm continuing to add to my Lemonade position, not super aggressively because there is a major risk they could go bankrupt. So all along, I've sort of been conservatively adding to my position with them. But that's sort of, the thesis is still there. We're still waiting to see how things are going to play out in this Q4 results and going forward into next year. And I broke down in another video and also a Twitter thread the three main concerns for Lemonade: that the loss ratio is too high, the customer churn is too high, and the operating costs are also too high. But I detailed in that thread why all three of these issues should improve over time. It should improve over time. So if you want to go back and read that thread again or check out that video, I'll link it above in the screen there. but still, nothing really has changed. We still need more time to see whether this will actually, the thesis will really pan out to be true or not. So for me, I'm continuing to add to my position of Lemonade. Again, not super aggressively because maybe we're missing something in one of these three things. Maybe they're not going to actually execute on them correctly. There's still a lot of risk with the company. Again, nothing in any of my videos is financial advice, but that's what I'm doing. I'm still continuing to add to my position. As I've kind of walked through in some other videos, I do believe there is data to show that the lifetime value of each customer cohort is aggressively improving over time for Lemonade. And I did a lot of math in another video. This spreadsheet is available to all my Patreon members, but just the gist of it is I did a whole bunch of math to figure out the customer retention curve for each different cohort of customers, basically how they retain those customers over time. Then I projected that out over a long span of time. Then I took the area under the curve of each projected cohort going all the way into the future. From that, calculated the lifetime value from the area under the curve of each customer cohort. From that, figured out the lifetime value and the lifetime value versus what the customer acquisition cost is for Lemonade, plotted those things out, and you get a lifetime value that's really shooting up, skyrocketing up, and also lifetime value for per customer acquisition that's also shooting up. And of course, this lifetime value is really shooting up because the premium per customer is improving. Also, the customer retention is improving, and the loss ratio, in theory, is improving, or at least Lemonade suggests it is improving, especially for the newest cohorts that are coming in. So you take those three factors together and you get this sort of explosive move upward in potential lifetime value of each customer cohort. And of course, your ratio gets bigger and bigger, above 3, approaching even getting close to 4 multiple for their lifetime value versus what their acquisition cost is. So still, in my mind, really encouraging potential for Lemonade. Still could be a generational company just because the stock price has come down. Going back to Benjamin Graham, that doesn't matter. In my mind, that's my advantage to buy more shares of a company I think still could be really valuable. Again, could be wrong. That's why I'm not all in on Lemonade, but I am slowly adding to my position. And I had a few people messaging me on Twitter, and also Financial Controller tagging me here in this post. He said, new all-time low for Lemonade, and he's basically asking, how low could they go? So some good discussion here, but people also asking, why are they dropping so low? And in my mind, the easiest explanation, if you're trying to give an explanation for short-term price movement, it's just that the market is extremely pessimistic right now. And is basically, as Financial Controller says here, they're basically pricing them for bankruptcy, or assuming they'll just, they'll never really reach profitability, or just sort of never really be actually a profitable company. But also, he makes a good point. The Metromile integration will be a burden on the income statement for a few quarters till they find synergies. That, going back to the start of this video, that one data point around Lemonade management saying they are really focused on improving Metromile integration along with their expenses. Again, really positive thing. That's what they need to focus on. Those most important things. And a huge sign for us that we need to obviously watch for, it will be their Q4 results, probably coming in February sometime, which will tell us, hey, was Q3 actually peak losses and now losses are plateauing or diminishing? Or if losses are even higher in Q4, that's going to be a major problem, and I think the share price will go even significantly lower than it is now if that occurs, if losses are even higher than they were in Q3, because management's been sort of telling us for 9 months or a year that Q3 of 2022 was going to be peak losses, and then profitability was slowly going to edge towards profitability after that. So Q4 will be very, very interesting for Lemonade. And I don't really follow technical trading, but if we look at a chart of Lemonade, I think there can be some merit to technical analysis, though I don't give it a lot of credit. But it is interesting, Bollinger Bands, which is essentially a 20-day moving average with lines above and below that are 2 standard deviations plus or minus from that. If you look at a chart of Lemonade with that plotted, it's very rare that the stock really moves outside of those bands, and then it typically expands, floats back the other way, even if it does, or recenters itself. So if you look at where we're at right now, we're at the very bottom of those bands. You kind of wonder, your moving average is about 1672 there. So you do wonder if we might see a movement back into that range in the short term, if I had to guess. But again, that's just sort of short-term price guessing almost. Okay, I hope that gave you some perspective on what I'm doing with Lemonade and how I'm thinking about the stock market and Lemonade right now. Feel free to message me any questions, any thoughts you have about Lemonade. I appreciate all your feedback or comment down below. Thank you so much for watching, and remember, it's in the bag.